What's up everybody, this is BR, and last week I talked about the tank meta following the Roadhog changes that were given to us by Blizzard. And I talked a lot about, different tanks and how they would be matched up afterwards following the Roadhog nerf. With Roadhog no longer considered being the best tank in Overwatch 2, now you have room for many other tanks, and I talked about a lot of them, and I personally think that Sigma is going to be one of those tanks that's going to be rising up to the top. I've faced many good Sigmas now who are very, very good at their job, and they are nearly unkillable. So, we're really going to have to continue seeing how that evolves. But one thing that I did bring up, especially later in the video, was the fact that I had totally forgotten about Junker Queen. I totally forgot talking about her, and why is that? Well, the reason why is because, Junker Queen just wasn't powerful when Roadhog and Orisa were just the top dogs. Roadhog had the one-hit potential, so, say goodbye to your squishies, and he was also very difficult to kill. Junker Queen just doesn't have the damage to compensate for all that healing and all that healing that is pumped from his supports. And because of just how powerful Roadhog's hook was, Junker Queen was basically dead if she ever got hooked, You get hooked, you get fucking just collapsed on by everybody on the enemy team and say goodbye. I don't care what you try, unless you have a Kariko there or even an Ana to try to save your ass, your shout is not going to compensate for the fact that you're taking almost 200 damage immediately. It's just a losing situation for Junker Queen, so going against a Roadhog is just terrible. Put on top of that Orisa was buffed to high heaven in order to compensate for Roadhog, and now you have another tank that is also meta that Junker Queen can just not kill, because the immense amount of temporary health that Orisa got from her little golden state is just ridiculous. It was ridiculous, and you could never finish off an Orisa on your own. You really needed to try to, collapse on the Orisa as hard as you can and try to do it when her cooldowns are down, which are very, very rare moments. And even if you could, you still have to deal with her supports. So Orisa is also just as unkillable. Not to mention that Orisa has some pretty good ranged damage, which compared to Junker Queen, she only has a scatter gun. That's a shotgun. That's not going to deal as much damage as you think it does. I mean, sure, it does pretty good damage up close, but when, an Orisa can just spear you from halfway across the map and just, keep spamming her bullets, even if they are projectiles, somebody who can aim good and knows how to handle those projectiles is going to deal immensely and considerably more damage compared to Junker Queen, who really relies not only on her scattergun, but also her knife and her axe swing. Because without those two, without the bleeding healing effect, Junker Queen has no survivability. So going against an Orisa and not being able to get close to her, or having an Orisa just play out of her range, is just never going to be good. So again, Junker Queen is just losing, and that's kind of why I forgot about Junker Queen in the last video, because she really wasn't that relevant. Unless you were going something that was not meta, you really weren't going to see a Junker Queen. Immediately if you're playing a Roadhog or Orisa, you're going to switch off, because if you're playing Junker Queen, you're practically throwing because of just how much survivability they have, not to mention their potency. So Junker Queen just got outclassed. They did buff her later on, which kind of did give her a little bit more of, survivability, but nowhere near enough to actually do any real damage. Now here comes the Roadhog nerfs, and Junker Queen is finally able to carry her own weight because Roadhog isn't as powerful and Orisa doesn't have as much temporary health in her golden state. So that just really alleviates a lot of the pressure that Junker Queen had before, and we've already been seeing this for the past week. Junker Queen has been getting a lot more players as far as I've been witnessing in competitive. And yeah, you could just chalk that up to the fact that Junker Queen was always good, and she always had good potential, but she was just being smothered by Roadhog and Orisa. But, I think another reason why she's rising up in popularity as far as tanks go is because, she's honestly one of the more fun tanks to play. She's just great overall. She rewards good aim. She has a very good kit. She's, very offensive, very aggressive, and it's a playstyle that is just fun. It's fun. There's not much more to say. Playing more aggressively is extensively more fun than playing something that's more passive. You just want to get in there, throw your knife around, hit some people with your axes. I mean, there is no better feeling than getting more than 3 people with your axe, because that just cuts down the cooldown. Now you have your axe immediately back, and hey, that's a lot of damage. Now, I will say this, it's understandable if you think that Junker Queen is significantly underpowered compared to other tanks. Yeah, she doesn't have the same kind of utility that other tanks have. She's no Ramatra, she's no Sigma, she's no Reinhardt even. If you make the cardinal sin of being out of position as Junker Queen, you are going to feel it. Junker Queen gets easily punished. Or not easily, alright? I would say that she gets punished more if she does a mistake. Her punishment is a lot more amplified compared to other tanks. Her shout doesn't actually give her that much temporary health, and even though she does gain health from doing damage with her knife and her axe, it's not enough to, be able to survive on your own. You're not going to be escaping anytime soon. But in my opinion, that just complements Junker Queen even more, because if you're doing good as Junker Queen, then that means you're doing something right. And that's one of those feelings that just feels very good with Junker Queen. It's the fact that that if you're messing up, you're gonna feel it. But when you don't feel that messing up part, it feels pretty good. It means you're learning. It means you're able to adapt to the situation. It means you're good. It means you're doing well. You don't really get that with other tanks, especially the ones that are more cheap, the ones that had a one hit, or the ones that have a lot of survivability because of their damage resistance, or because they get a lot more temporary health in a different form, or because they're able to heal themselves on their own by eating projectiles. I mean, those are just examples of other tanks. I didn't name them, I'm just saying their abilities, but I'm sure that if you're already familiar with those tanks, you already know which ones I'm talking about. All Junker Queen gets from her shout is some speed and temporary health, and not even for that long. And sure, she can also give it to her teammates, but it's really not that useful of a utility. It just gives them a little bit more survivability if you're all together. And while Junker Queen does have the potential to, get a squishy and kill them on her own without that much trouble, it is nowhere near the same caliber as Roadhog. And to close out this whole argument, I think one of the reasons why Junker Queen just feels so good is that there's so much room for error for her. There's not that baseline, oh yeah, she's very effective baseline, and then you can get better with her. The thing is that if you don't capitalize on any of her toolkit, or you don't keep in mind the fact that her cooldowns take a while to recharge, or know when to properly use them, you are guaranteed to lose every single fight and every single engagement. But if you do practice with her, and you do get better with Junker Queen, you keep everything in mind, you practice, you make sure to take out the best out of any situation, then you're gonna probably do pretty well. You're gonna be able to deal enough damage to the enemy that it makes them back off. You'll be able to be more aggressive. You'll be able to, time your things a lot better to deal more damage. You'll be able to secure more kills more consistently, and you'll be able to coordinate with your team in order to make those proper picks. And that's honestly why I think Junker Queen is just so much fun. She has a learning curve, and that learning curve is very rewarding. Not only, in time, not only do you see your skills get better progressively between matches, but you also get rewarded for those in the match themselves. You'll notice that you're dealing a lot more damage than usual. You'll notice that you're not dying as much. You'll notice that your survivability is through the roof. And why? Because you're doing everything as efficiently as you can. You're making the most out of Junker Queen, and that is something that you can see immediately based on your performance. And I think that there's a little bit more correlation with Junker Queen's statistics on the scoreboard compared to every other tank. But you shouldn't be taking this as me saying that, oh yeah, your damage numbers, your healing numbers, your damage mitigation numbers matter in the grand scheme of things. No, they don't. They're just a helpful reminder of, okay, what do I need to work on? What am I excelling at? I think that's what's great about Junker Queen. She's just a character that you can continue to grow and grow with. Kind of like with Doomfist, except not as hated. But anyways, that's the end of this video. What did you think about it? Make sure to tell me your opinion down in the comment section below. What do you think about Junker Queen? Do you think she's fun to play? Do you think she's annoying to fight against? Make sure to leave your opinion down below. If you found this video interesting, like it if you like it, dislike it if you disliked it. If you'd like to see more content just like this, make sure to subscribe. And of course, if you'd like to support this channel, I do have a Patreon in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to my patrons. I will talk to you guys later.